My distinct pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, Senator Michael McDonald. Senator McDonald is the chair of the Senate Selection Committee and a dedicated member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and we are honoured that he joins us here this afternoon. Please do join me in giving a very warm welcome to Senator McDonald.
سناتور مایکل مکدونالد رئیس کمیسیون گزینش سنای کانادا. شورای ملی مقاومت ایران یک جایگزین دموکراتیک و معتبر ارائه می کند که جهان آزادی خواه می تواند و باید از آن حمایت کند. حمایت از شورای ملی مقاومت ایران برای تقویت آینده‌ای که در آن ایران می‌تواند به عنوان الگوی دموکراسی و نیرویی برای صلح در منطقه ظهور کند ضروری است.
Thank you, Madam Ajavi, and my fellow friends of a free and democratic Iran. My name is Michael McDonald. I have been a member of the Canadian Senate since 2009, and it is a real pleasure to gather here today with all of you. I have always been a keen student of history, and the history of that part of the world we call Iran parallels that of civilization itself. It is one of the cradles of civilization, and we in the West have always appreciated the many accomplishments of Persian civilization over the centuries. We know that a free and democratic Iran would make the world a better place. So we are gathered here for a common but noble purpose, to support those who have made it their life's work to oppose and remove the theocratic regime that has terrorized the people of Iran, funded terrorism, and promoted instability around the globe since 1979. The suffering of the Iranian people under the theocratic regime is tragic, with at least 120,000 people having been liquidated for their political opposition to the government. However, the Iranian people, and especially the Iranian women, have not surrendered to the oppression of the regime. Their resistance is strong and resilient. Indeed, it's arguably stronger today than any time since 1979. These are courageous people, and they deserve international recognition and support. Now, it is not for the democratic world to impose its political will on Iran, but it is critically important that the international community support a viable alternative to its current regime. The National Council of Resistance of Iran presents a democratic and credible alternative that the freedom-loving world can and should support. For over 43 years, the NCRI has demonstrated strong leadership and commitment to democratic principles. President-elect Rajavi's 10-point plan offers a comprehensive roadmap for a free and democratic Iran, emphasizing fundamental rights, the equality of men and women, and peaceful coexistence with a democratic, pluralist world. Thank you. Adopting this 10-point plan is essential for overcoming the destructive impact of the current regime and achieving the aspirations of the Iranian people. This program offers a pathway to a future where Iran is free, prosperous, and respectful of international norms, nurturing the potential of all its citizens. I believe that supporting the NCRI is crucial for fostering a future where Iran can emerge as a beacon of democracy and a force for peace in the region. The hope that the NCRI represents has no equal, and the democratic world must stand with them as they lead the way to rescue Iran from the autocrats and fanatics that have done so much damage to so many for so long. Recognizing the NCRI and rejecting all forms of dictatorship are vital steps in supporting the Iranian people's struggle. NCRI has received endorsements from over 200 members of the U.S. Congress, over 500 British parliamentarians, numerous Nobel laureates, over 3,600 parliamentarians globally, and 125 former world leaders. So it is gratifying for me to be here this year, now that my country, Canada, has finally declared the IRGC to be a terrorist entity. A development, I must add, that was considered long overdue by most thoughtful Canadians. Canada's designation of the IRGC as a terrorist entity is a commendable step, something the Iranian resistance has been advocating for years. The UN, the EU, and those of our allies who haven't yet done the same should step up and do its part as well. Doing nothing is but a form of appeasement and is indefensible when one reflects on the conduct of the Iranian government. Appeasement is never a solution to tyranny, and it must be studiously avoided. The regime's increasing boldness in advancing its terrorist operations, especially in Europe, is a direct result of appeasement policies. The attempted assassination of the former vice president of the European Parliament, orchestrated by the Iranian regime through criminal gangs, underscores this reliance on terrorism. These incidents highlight the urgent need to end appeasement. When countries release convicted terrorists in exchange for hostages, they reinforce the regime's belief that they can act with impunity. I think it is useful now to remind ourselves about President Rajavi's 10-point plan, because the principles outlined in this plan are ones that should appeal to all democratic people and societies. An Iran that is governed under such principles would surely flourish and will become a leader for positive change in the world, a role that I believe it could truly fill as long as the Iranian people get the opportunity to experience real freedom, freedoms that have been denied to them for far too long. I trust our gathering here today is another step towards that freedom, a freedom that soon will be realized. Thank you for your time.
It's now my immense personal pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker, Ambassador Sam Brownback, the former US Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom. Please do welcome Ambassador Sam Brownback.
سناتور سام برانبک، سفیر آمریکا برای آزادی مذهبی 2021. شما با آخوندهای حاکم بر ایران هیچ صلحی در خاورمیانه به دست نخواهید آورد. تنها راه پیش رو تغییر رژیم توسط مردم و رهایی از آخوندهای حاکم بر ایران است. برای تحقق صلح در خاورمیانه، غرب و ایالات متحده باید از تغییر رژیم توسط مردم ایران حمایت کنند. جهان آزاد باید از یک ایران آزاد حمایت کند.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to join you, Madam Rajavi. Very good to see you and to be with you. I've worked on this topic since I was in the United States Senate. I worked with Joe Lieberman and John McCain on this topic. They both are deceased, and I'm still working on it. I'm going to continue to work on it. We're going to see it through to completion, and there will be a free Iran. And let's put the cards really out on the table here if we can. Look, you are not going to get peace in the Middle East with these ruling mullahs in power in Iran. It won't happen. It will not happen with this crew that's running Iran now. The only route forward is regime change by the people of the ruling mullahs that are in Iran today. That's what has to happen if we're going to get anywhere close to peace in the Middle East. And we need, I believe in the West, the United States needs to support these efforts of regime change by the people in Iran. We must put maximum economic pressure on the Iranian regime. We need to put maximum political pressure on the ruling mullahs. If you're a person that's a person of faith, if you're a Muslim, remember the Quran says there is no compulsion in religion, and yet the Iranian regime puts forth compulsion on religion every day upon the people all the time. That's what's taking place in this regime. There is no religious freedom in Iran. There is none there. That is a hallmark of a free society, is to have religious freedom. The world needs regime change by the people in Iran to end this night of terror, to end this night of wrong. The free world must support a free Iran. The days of dictatorship in Iran are coming to an end. The days of dictatorship in Iran are coming to an end. The people of Iran will be free. The West and the entire free world must support the tools for regime change by the people and support the groups that are bringing this change forward. That fire of change is burning now in Iran. And as one of the prior speakers say, you cannot predict when these changes will happen, but you can predict that they will happen because of these factors that are setting place now. This change will happen. Let's push it forward. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now honoured to introduce to you our next speaker, Professor Wolfgang Schumberg, a distinguished former judge at the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia and the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, as well as the former judge of the Federal Supreme Court of Germany, an unparalleled career in human rights. Please do join me in welcoming Ambassador, Professor, dare I say, Schumberg. Thank you so much.
دکتر ولف شومبورگ، قاضی سازمان ملل در پرونده یوگسلاوی سابق و رواندا. جنایات بسیار جدی علیه بشریت در ایران وجود دارد و طبق گفته پروفسور رحمان، نسل کشی اسم مناسبی برای این جنایات است. زمان آن رسیده که توسط سازمان ملل دادگاهی تأسیس شود و من مطمئنم که اگر تصمیمی از سوی مجمع عمومی گرفته شود، اکثریت قاطعی به نفع یک دادگاه بین المللی برای رسیدگی به جنایات ارتکابی در قلمرو ایران از سال 67 تا به امروز وجود خواهد داشت.
Madam President, dear colleagues and friends of an upcoming free and democratic Iran. There is no peace without justice, no justice without truth. How can we achieve these values in relation to Iran? It has become in the reign of the 3 days that there are extremely serious crimes against humanity, and according to Professor Rehman, even genocide is a proper labeling of these crimes. It's not only about the crimes in 1988, but there is a focus on it. We must be aware that it's an ongoing crime. When we look about the most recent crimes and the execution following the last events dating back only 2 years. And in this context, I want to repeat what Madame Rajavi has already mentioned, and I don't think it's a very sad global and world record. Place one is Iran with 853 executions of death penalty. This casts already a light on the mentality of the acting regime. And I really appreciate, Madam President, that it's in your list that you openly call for the abolishment of death penalty. Thank you for this very much. We have heard, as I said, about the crimes. But human rights, do they remain as pieces of paper? Hopefully not. We have in the past seen where there is a political will, then we, judges, prosecutors, can do the necessary. And what we did in the tribunals, former Yugoslavia and Rwanda, we completed our mission and brought to justice highest-ranking politicians and members of the military. But as I said, it's only possible if there is a political will to establish international courts or tribunals. It's possible to prevent the minimum standards abroad having been or still in the pressure of the Mullah regime. And it is necessary to continue with all these efforts. In the General Assembly, each country has one vote. We have more than 180 countries, and I'm pretty sure that when there would a decision of the General Assembly, that there would be a vast majority in favor of an international tribunal dealing with the crimes committed on the territory of Iran since 1988 until today's date. And I think we have together fight for this, because how can we have peace in the area when we have not established all the underlying facts and bring justice to the area? We have two examples in the past established either by the Human Rights Council, mechanism, international mechanism, and this was established in 2018 in relation to Myanmar on genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. We had already in 2016 a similar mechanism to establish the truth on what happened in Syria. And the work, of course, it comes never to an end, but it has already been the underlying substance for domestic crimes under the aforementioned principle of international jurisdiction, which is now universal jurisdiction, and we and all the countries can apply this. Because the death of Mr. Raisi and the elections has reattracted the attention of media in particular for his responsibility, in particular in 1988. When we have Mr. Rahman's report being the trigger mechanism already in the past for the one or other establishment of a court. And third, we also have to be aware that serious enough as they are, there are no longer alone crimes inside the Iran. There are also crimes committed abroad. Not only the list of 104 people acting as in their work in resistance against the Iranian regime, and this is condemned by numerous countries already. And you can be assured, living in Iran, that we have mechanisms enough in our civilized world to stop, to bring these trials in absentia and their judgments over the borders. We have to stop this by rejecting red notices or extradition. And there are two more present events. It is time to more and even more investigate the fundamental crimes against interest of the international community. This is in particular that what's going on in the Red Sea. States in their actions are always driven by their own interests. And the highest interest is the international trade. And what we have seen in the Red Sea, and we continue to see, admittedly it's far more than the media are presenting today, is such an ongoing attack against the international trade. And there is no reasonable doubt at present, at least for the prosecution, that behind all these acts in Yemen is the mullah regime in Tehran providing people in Iran with weapons and financial support. And I think this should be reason enough for the one or other country, normally against international tribunals, to think twice. To conclude, the people of Iran, they need desperately to see that justice is done. This can only be done, in my mind, by an international tribunal. Then what we need, and I think this is an invitation to think about this, the People's International Tribunal for the crimes committed on the territory of former Yugoslavia since 1988 until today. We have seen in many cases that this was the triggering point for the establishment also of a formal court, but also this so-called mock tribunal helps a lot that people in the Iran can see that justice is done, and we can do and we do whatever is in our power. It was mentioned that, yes, the wall came down. Nobody dared to say. At that time, I was Undersecretary of State in the Ministry of Justice of Berlin, and only 4 days before the wall came down, I would say, we thought it would never happen. But 4 days later, we were at the wall and took care and were surprised. And hopefully this will also come true in Iran without any bloodshed. There's hope. And be assured we are with you, but we have to act. We have to act now because we shall overcome.